All right, so tip number one is just going to be very quick settings changes. I'm not going to go over all the graphics settings. We're just going to be doing the ones that impact gameplay. So first of all, turn motion blur down to 0, depth of field off, and bloom off. Now there is some reasons to keep bloom on, like it's really hard to see mines without this setting, but the rest of the game is just too bright. Experiment with this one yourself. Come on over to display. We are going to turn camera shake strength off. Even the weak option is very, very powerful. Next, we head on over to gameplay. We're going to do remember aim mode per weapon. Remember weapon functions, yes. I prefer switch weapon on pickup off. That way I can pick up my support weapon, but I don't necessarily pull it out. This one is up to you, but definitely turn off auto climb during sprint. You will find yourself climbing on top of resupply pods when you're just trying to resupply. Okay, tip number 2, let's talk about armor. There are 3 different types of armor. Light armor with only 50 armor rating, medium armor with 100 armor rating, and then heavy armor all the way down here, the chunky boys with 150 armor rating. Now, the main thing you need to know is that currently in the game, light armor, 50 armor rating, and medium armor, 100 armor rating, take the same amount of headshot damage. So that means if you're wearing medium armor, if you get hit in the head, it will feel like you're wearing light armor. And guess what? Enemies like to bonk you right in your skull. Now, the way the game is currently balanced is light armor is very, very weak. You can straight up get 2-shot by tons of enemies in the game. If you choose to wear light armor, then you better commit to run diving. Your goal in light armor is to use the speed and not get hit. But if you like to stand and fight, then the basic Helldivers armor, the armor that you have right now as a level 1 player, this is actually one of the best armor sets in the game. When it comes to bugs and also squids, just standing and fighting on these 2 factions, this armor set, I usually wear the Golden Eagle one because, you know, it's a little bit drippier, but this is the armor set I recommend wearing against the bugs. Now, to be fair, as a new player, you know, just getting up to like difficulty 5, 6, and 7, you know, wear light armor. It's really not that big of a deal, especially at the lower difficulties. But once you get past difficulty 7, I recommend switching to medium padded. This gives you a good balance of speed because it has the medium armor speed, but it has heavy armor rating. On the other hand, on the bots, the best armor set to wear against the bots is this one right here, B24 Enforcer. Notice that the armor rating is 129. So this is heavier than medium armor, but it's not quite 150, so it's actually faster than heavy armor. Now, the reason why a lot of people like this set is because it's just a little bit faster than heavy armor, but you do get that headshot damage resistance for wearing more than 100 armor rating. Now, this armor set is available in the Superstore on page 10. I believe it's 150 super credits, but with that being said, since you're a brand new player, you probably want to save your super credits for Warbonds. Luckily for you, in the base Warbond, Helldivers Mobilize, on page 2 is heavy explosive resistance. Now, just real quick, let's go ahead and talk about boosters. Personally, I think Vitality is the best booster in the game. This is the most necessary. And while we're talking about it, Experimental Infusion is the other one. So what Vitality Booster does is it gives you 10% damage resistance. Now, the thing about Vitality is that the developers have actually balanced a lot of the damage around Vitality. There's multiple items in the game that damage you, or enemies that damage you, or like when you bleed, when your chest gets starts hemorrhaging and you bleed out, they balance the damage you take around Vitality. If you're bleeding from your chest while you don't have Vitality, you take tons and tons of damage. It kills you almost so fast you are like can't get the stim off. Okay, so tip number 3 is where to get the most common samples. Here we go. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna look for mega city missions. Now, mega cities have these sort of like 3-row. It looks like a tower. It's like a tower icon. Normal missions with like open terrain or these drop pod icons. Over on the mega city, we are going to find this mission right here, Cleanse Infested District. Now, notice I'm on level 10. On level 9 and level 10, you have to destroy 4 of these. Now, the reason this is the best for common samples is because at each of these nests, there is a guaranteed 10 common samples around them. Now, on lower difficulty, let's just say level 5. I think if you're a new player, you can handle level 5. I believe there are 2 of these nests. And here we go. On a different planet, Here is cleanse infected districts. So this is a guaranteed 20 samples. And this is a very easy mission. You just land, you call in a hell bomb, you destroy them, and then you leave. So you can get a guaranteed 20 common samples in probably less than 10 minutes, maybe 15, depending on how long it takes you to do it. But that's the best way to get your early ship modules. Okay, so tip number 4, let's talk about the best early game weapons against each faction. Against the bugs, it is absolutely the Punisher. This is a pump shotgun. It does a nice chunk of damage. And the main reason this is so good is because it staggers. The bugs are rushing you down. Stalkers, you can run into those guys. You're going to want to stagger them with each shot. Later on, you will upgrade this to one of the fire shotguns like the Cookout. This is a pump shotgun that staggers and then it lights them on fire. Now, when it comes to the Punisher, once you get to level 10, you get weapon customization. You basically just need the full choke. I believe this is unlocked at level 14. You can get this pretty early. But if you look through these, it just basically tightens the spread. When it comes to the bots, the R63 Diligence Marksman Rifle, it's light armor penetrating, but and you unlock this very early. Not only is this the best early game weapon against the bots, but this is one of the best options, even for difficulty 10. This is actually probably my favorite gun right now to use on bots, even on the hardest difficulty. When it comes to weapon customization, we use the angled foregrip and we don't attach any muzzles. So there is a stat called weapon sway, and these muzzle brake, flash hider, and compensator actually negatively impact your weapon sway. It doesn't show it here because I think it's just by a decimal, so it's not able to show it. And the angled foregrip positively impacts weapon sway. We're going to be talking about weapon sway in a later tip. Now, for the squids, on the other hand, the squids are a machine gun faction. I think the best weapons against the squids are some of the explosive ones and some of the Warbonds. So with that being said, the very first gun you get, the Liberator, this is kind of the best option against the squids. Like, squids are a DPS faction. You don't really need to stagger them all the time, so you don't need a Punisher. Punisher does like high single target damage, but lower DPS. The Liberator does better damage per second. Later on, when you unlock the Liberator Penetrator, this has medium armor pen, and the Overseers, which look like the Halo elites. You know, maybe you don't know what that enemy is yet. You can shoot them in the head. You need a medium armor pen weapon to shoot them in the head. The Adjudicator is also a fine option, and this is in the first Warbond I'll recommend you guys to unlock. And speaking of Warbonds, the absolute best Warbond when it comes to loadout diversity and just all of the above is Democratic Detonation. Now, on page 1 of Democratic Detonation, you get that Adjudicator. This is just kind of nice for being able to headshot the Overseers, but you get this grenade right here called the Thermite. The Thermite does 2,000 damage, and it is anti-tank armor piercing. So the reason why this Warbond is so good is for loadout diversity. There are enemies which require anti-tank armor pen or heavy armor pen, and what the Thermite allows you to do is not have to use a support weapon that's anti-tank. You can just use that in your grenade slot. Now, the other 3 weapons in here, the Eruptor, this fires explosive, basically shrapnel grenades. The Crossbow, which fires basically just medium armor pen, exploding grenades, kinda. And then the Grenade Pistol. What these allow you to do is close bug holes or shoot this into a bot fabricator and destroy them. So this is a primary weapon that can close bug holes. This is a secondary weapon that can close bug holes. The Eruptor is one of the best guns in the game, and it's only on page 2. You can unlock it pretty early. And these are the the Eruptor is very, very nice on squids because squids are a DPS faction. So the machine gun support weapons, the very first machine gun that you already have unlocked is one of the best support weapons for squids. And you can kind of use that as your primary weapon, and then you can take the Eruptor to deal large area damage from range. Okay, so tip number 5. We are going to head over to the Helldivers wiki. We're going to teach you guys the basics of enemies and damage. Okay, so this is something that can get pretty complicated. You'll learn this as you play more and you fight more enemies. But I'm going to give you a really basic explanation as well as like general just kind of rules to follow. Okay, so on the Helldivers wiki, you can see that the Heavy Devastator is made up of multiple body parts. The head, the torso, the stomach, the shoulders, the arms, the pelvis, the legs, the backpack and his ballistic shield. Now we have health. His total health is his main health is 750. We have the armor value. His main health is light armor pen. We have the durable health, and this is what gets a bit complicated. We have percentage to main. So what percentage to main is if I'm shooting him in the torso, it deals 100% to main. So I'm also hitting his main health. So the reason this is valuable to know about, for example, is the shoulder. He has like little shoulder armor. If you shoot the shoulder armor, it only deals 25% to health. So there are some body parts on some enemies you just completely want to avoid. On the Devastator, it's the shoulder. We can ignore bleed for now, and then we have fatal body parts. So for example, if you shoot the head off the Devastator, yes, it is fatal. If you shoot the torso off the Devastator, yes, it is fatal. But if we shoot the shoulder off, no, it is not fatal. Now, the reason it's important to know fatal body parts is because there are a lot of enemies in the game where if you shoot a leg off, that is fatal. And now the reason this is important is because you'll notice, like, let's say we can't get a headshot off. So we have to choose, are we going to shoot him in the torso or are we going to shoot him in the leg? Well, the leg is only light armor pen, but the torso is medium armor pen. So there's two reasons to know this. Number one, if you don't have a medium armor pen weapon equipped, then you can't even shoot him in the torso, so you're better off going for the leg. But number two is that even with a medium penetrating weapon, if your only options were the torso or the leg, you actually want to go for the leg. Now, the reason for that is because if you match armor pen, so if you have a Liberator Penetrator, which is medium armor pen, and you're shooting a medium armored target, you're only dealing partial damage. You're dealing 65% of your total damage. Now, they do show you this in game. There are 3 hit marker icons. There's a red X, which means you have more armor pen than the armor of your target. You have a white X, which means you're matching armor pen, and that means you get the damage penalty, or you just don't have enough armor and you get the ricochet icon. And then finally, we have EXDR, which means explosive damage resistance. And you will see on most enemies, the main health has 0% explosive damage resistance, and then all the other body parts have 100. Now, the reason for that is because if these body parts didn't have 100, then explosives would deal damage multiple times. Now, there are some enemies, we'll talk about one in a second, that you could take advantage of this on. Like, you can shoot an explosive at them, and they take however many instances of explosive, depending on how many body parts they have. But the main thing to know here is that explosive weapons, so like if you shoot a grenade launcher, it's only dealing damage to the main part, so you don't really need to aim. Okay, so what is durable health? Because you'll see that the Devastator is not durable on the main, not durable on the head, but it's 30% durable on the torso. So what does that mean? Let's take a look at the crossbow, which has a, here's the picture of the crossbow, which deals projectile damage, and it also deals area of effect damage. So if we look at the damage of the crossbow, the projectile deals 270 damage, but the durable damage of the projectile is only 50, which is significantly less. That's like almost or less than 20% of the damage of the projectile. However, this is why explosions are really good, because all explosive damage in the game is 100% durable. So just as a quick example, if we were shooting a 100% durable target, the projectile of the crossbow would only deal 50 instead of 270, but the explosion would deal all 350 damage no matter what. So, general rule of thumb, ballistic weapons do not have high durable damage. They're not good for like heavier medium enemies or large enemies, but explosions are pretty much good across the board. Now, that doesn't mean don't use ballistic weapons, because explosive weapons are very dangerous up close, and almost zero of the little mobs in the game aren't really durable at all. So for example, I can use the Punisher, which is a ballistic weapon for all the little hunters, warriors, even an Alpha Commander, because it does do a lot of damage and stuff like that. But then for the more durable enemies in the game, you want to use like support weapons, usually have really good durable damage, or just stick to explosions. So let's take a look at the Flesh Mob. This is a medium enemy on squids. It's a very, very tanky enemy. It has 6,000 health. I think this is 500 less health than a Bile Titan, but this is a very common enemy when you are fighting the squids. You will notice that it has 8 heads on it. It says head flesh chunks right here. There are 8 of them. It has 4 arms and it has 2 legs. And notice under explosive damage resistance, 0 on the main, only 25% on the heads. The arms are completely explosive resistant. And then both of the legs are only 25% explosive resistance. So if I shoot a grenade launcher at a flesh mob, it's going to deal that explosive damage 1 time, 8 more times, and 2 more times. So 1 grenade versus a flesh mob deals large chunks of its health. You want to use explosive weapons against enemies like this. Now, another thing to note as well, but the flesh mob is 25% durable on every single body part. So again, explosive weapons. Now, just another quick thing to take note here, use fire damage. Fire actually doesn't deal the same damage to every enemy. The larger an enemy is, the developers scaled fire damage to basically deal a better chunk to these larger enemies. So fire damage is also really strong. So fill your loadouts with explosives and fire, and you will have a good time. All right, so I hope I didn't scare any of you guys away with that explanation. I tried to explain it to you if you wanted to know like how it works, but I also tried to keep it simple. So let's go ahead and talk about some of the fun stuff. Survival in combat and fighting enemies. The first thing that you need to know is that you can stim yourself while diving at the same time, and this is the best way to stim. So as a new player, get your muscle memory to just stim while diving, because if you go to stim and you're just standing there, an enemy can attack you and actually stagger you and cancel your stim. But while you're diving, you're immune to being staggered. And that's why dive and stim is so powerful. All right, so you got that one down. Let's talk about kiting, dodging, and parrying bugs. The first thing I will say, as a new player, you should absolutely be learning how to use your melee button. So brood commanders, alpha commanders, and warriors, when you shoot off their head, they take one final charge at you. And there are a lot of players in the community who complain about this, but you can simply punch them. What your melee button is it is a single target stagger. It's really, really nice for when an enemy is in your face and you need to cancel their attack. Now, hunters leaping at you can also be parried if you time it correctly. You pretty much want to hit the melee button a little bit before it looks like they're going to hit you. Just practice this. It just takes a little bit of timing to get down. But their leap attack can be parried. It's really, really cool, and it's one of the most fun things to do. The same idea exists for warriors. If a warrior is about to swipe at you, you could just punch him in the head and cancel his attack. Same with brood commanders. Now, some of the heavier enemies, like stalkers, cannot be staggered by your melee. Also, overseers cannot be staggered by your melee. So just go ahead and melee every enemy and you will learn which ones that you can stagger and which ones you cannot. So for some of those enemies, like stalkers especially, that's why the Punisher shotgun is really good, because you can just shoot them to stagger them. But with that being said, sometimes you're reloading your weapon, sometimes you're just trying to get away. It's not always best to melee. It's just to do it at the right times. Let's go ahead and talk about dodging and kiting enemies. Now, I made this little infographic in MS Paint a while back, but warriors and hive guards, if you run diagonal kind of towards them or diagonal past them, their attacks will miss you. Stalkers, these ones are a little tricky to dodge. You can run diagonal away from them. And I should be showing you a clip right now where I successfully ran away from like 5 stalkers in a row. Now, stalkers can be a little bit tricky because they attack with both their arms and you want to run in opposite directions. They kind of attack this way and this way. So if they attack with this arm, you want to be running diagonal the other way. And if they attack with this arm, stalkers are a little bit tricky. The best way to deal with stalkers is to shoot them with something like a Punisher. Hunters, on the other hand, if you don't want to get the parry timing down, basically you want to bait out their leap attack and you just kind of want to spin around in a circle. You want to juke the hunters. Brood commanders and alpha commanders, on the other hand, have very long arms. They have very large hitboxes. If one is very close to you and about to attack you, you likely won't be able to escape that attack. So you want to punch alpha commanders and brood commanders, or again, stagger them with something like the Punisher. Now, it's really good to know these things because when you stim in this game, there is a slight delay before it actually starts healing you. Take a look at this clip right here.
So it spawns based on how strong the computer is.
No way, I stim. Now, in that clip, it really felt like I should have got the stim off. We hear the full sound, and I actually think this was really unlucky because I think the Alpha Commander actually attacked me on like the very last frame of the stim. Like, that's a really extreme example of an enemy being able to kill you, even though I got the stim off. So there are times in this game where you're danger close. There's an enemy in your face and you're at 1 HP. Don't go for the stim. Attack them back, stagger them, punch them, go for a dodge. This is the sort of thing that just kind of takes practice and takes game sense to understand. But if you start practicing your dodging and parrying now, you will learn those danger close ranges where a stim won't even save you. And just sometimes you got to fight back rather than running and healing. Okay, so let's talk about the bots. The bots are an enemy that does not swarm you. You're not going to be dodging these guys. You're not going to be parrying them, because they shoot guns, they have firepower. Some of the bots do have melee attacks, but you can't stagger the ones that do, at least not with your fist. What the bots require is precision weapons and good aim. We can somewhat zig and zag them as well. Now, the first thing you need to know about your guns in this game is weapon sway. I touched on this when I showed the customization of the Diligence earlier, but basically what weapon sway is if you're standing still and aiming, you will notice your reticle bobs ever so slightly back and forth. Now, in general, pistols and SMGs have the worst weapon sway, whereas a marksman rifle like the Diligence, even without any upgrades, it has very little weapon sway. Now, the weapon sway is shown to you with the circle rather than your crosshair. Pay attention to the circle more than you do your crosshair. Even sometimes I turn on my reticle mod where I kind of just disable my crosshair and I only use the circle. But that's not available on console. All you really need to know is just use the circle more than you use the reticle. Okay, so when you are standing up, your weapon sway and your recoil are both at the base levels. Crouching gives you reduced weapon sway and it also gives you reduced recoil. And going prone gives you the least weapon sway and the least recoil. Now, again, this is the most relevant on bots, as like I showed with the Devastator earlier, he has a really small head compared to his whole body, or like compared to the bugs. Like the Alpha Commander has a giant head. You don't really need to care about weapon sway if you're swaying down an Alpha Commander. But if you're trying to get a nice precise shot on a Devastator, then you need to be crouching or you need to be prone. If you're standing and shooting in this game, you're technically doing it wrong, and that's just not that you can't hit shots while you're standing, but the game is designed where you get bonus weapon sway and bonus recoil control while you're crouching or while you are prone. And with that being said, secondary weapons have so much weapon sway right now that I almost always shoot my Senator or Talon, which are some of the best secondary weapons against the bots. I am almost always prone when I'm using these two guns. Now, against the bots in general, you can kind of game their accuracy a little bit. Like, you're not going to dodge every shot, but if you are moving erratically, you're always zigzagging, just take random movements against the bots. You know, zig twice and then zag 3 times. You're going to take less damage in general. Randomly dive away in a different direction. Click your prone button because the bots are aiming upwards. If you click your prone, now you're flat and they're going to take like a second or two to lock onto you. Flame Hulks can actually be dodged by proning under the fire. And you can also use this moment while you're proning under the fire to shoot back, shoot them in the face because you have no weapon sway or low weapon sway and you have less recoil. Now, while we're on the topic of Flame Hulks and Berserkers, even though they're rushing you down, they're not actually that fast. You can actually just walk away from them. Yes, I didn't say run away from them. You can literally walk away from a Flame Hulk or a Berserker. Now, with that being said, in heavy armor, you do have to sprint here and there. You can't walk away in heavy armor, but that's why that B24 Enforcer armor set is really good, because it is tanky enough that it feels good on the bots, but it's not as slow as heavy armor. And you can walk away and shoot one-handed weapons. The Senator is really, really great for this. And all right, these are the basics. Learning how to use the mechanics that the game gives you to succeed from very early on and getting some better habits as a new player, because even like if you're an experienced player and you're watching this and I taught you something, it's hard to retrain your muscle memory. So getting used to these tactics as a new player, you have an advantage over some of the veterans who have bad habits and bad muscle memory. Some of these advanced tips will take practice, and that's why it's good to practice from very early on. So do me a favor, if you watch this far, like the video, comment down below, subscribe to the channel. I'll see you later. I'm out.